Happy morning, Monday morning. It is a beautiful day in the neighborhood. I'm on my screen porch, which is delightful. We are excited today because it's important in this market to know your stats. It's always important to understand your stats and how to read them, but especially when times are crazy like this and there's all kinds of information out there, it's so important to really know what your stats are. So we're very pleased to have Liz with us today, who is an agent in our market center. And she's here to talk to us about how to read and understand our current stats. So Liz, take it away, please.
Okay, well, good morning. Thanks for joining us. This is going to be an overview of how to find the stats, what you've got. We have a whole lot of information. And let me know if you can't hear me or if anything technically is off. But we have a whole lot of information that we get from Chartmaster that we all pay for each month. And it is really valuable stuff for us to have. So this is the purpose of this, is just to make sure that everyone understands what they've got and the key parts to use. There's a lot of information. So I'm going to go over some things to make sure that you are at least looking at and familiarizing yourself with. And anyway, where they are, what you've got, and all that. So joining us is Chartmaster Chuck, as we call him, and it's Chuck Carr, who is the person who does these stats for us. And he is here. He's going to be a fly on the wall unless we have questions that I can't answer or if he wants to chime in. So
and before Liz starts again, you can either put a question in the chat bar, or you can unmute yourself and ask the question. Just make sure to always mute yourself at the end. All right. Thanks a lot. Okay. Go, Liz.
Okay. So I'm going to, this is the first class I've done. So I'm going to share my screen and go through a PowerPoint that we've got. But basically everything I'm going to show you today is on our intranet. And at the end, I'll show you how to find that in case you don't know. It can be sometimes confusing where we've got all of this information, but everything I'm going to go through, you can access on the intranet for our office. So let me go to my PowerPoint. Okay. Hopefully everyone can see that. Just raise your hand if you can't. Okay. Okay. So basically you've got two sets of information that we get every month. Every quarter. First you get charts, which is our quarterly reports. And also monthly, we get the Metro Market Overview, the MMO. So you've got your charts and graphs, and then you've got your toolkit. The toolkit is where you can find your all of your listing presentation, your buyer presentation. We actually have postcards in there. There's a lot of tools for you to use in the toolkit also. So this is just kind of to let you know there are two sets of information every quarter uploaded. And this shows how much we have. So you can kind of look at this flow chart. We've got the toolkit, again, includes buyer tools and seller tools and lead generation tools, and also self-training tools. We have this Chartmaster for Dummies document, which kind of goes through how to use it and key charts to use, which I'm going to talk about later. There is a pre-list kit. There is a seller grab and go and a buyer grab and go. And those are really wonderful things to use. They are basically what I would recommend is you print those out and they have key charts, and you have them sitting in your office ready to go when you have an unexpected appointment. The idea is to grab it and go, and you're ready to present it to someone. These are all in PowerPoint and also PDF forms. And then the lower part shows you all of the stats that we have, the charts, and they are split up between single detached homes and condos. So you'll have a set for each group. So we've got quarterly report, which is, you should be familiar with seeing a lot of those from our meetings and presentations. The area report, going back to the quarterly report, they have got information that's comparing quarters and also price by price range. There are a lot of charts in there, so that's why I'm going to kind of drill down onto the key ones that you should know about.
Hey Liz?
Yes.
If someone's asking, what is the exact date the stats come in every quarter? Is
I
there
don't
an
know.
exact date?
There's not an exact date. It's typically the second or third week of the month following the end of the quarter. Am I right on that?
Yeah, typically it's about the middle of the third week is when you can expect them to be out.
Okay, great.
And then
Thanks.
the MMO, which is the monthly update, is in place typically the day after the first. It's usually the first or second of the month, unless it falls on a weekend. So you'll see those monthly, and those are great snapshots too. We'll go over that. So these are all the reports that you get. This is a nice flow chart just to kind of show you. You can see one page what you've got to look at. So the area report, and I'll show you examples of that. The area report drills down. You can use those to look at specific parts of the city that you are selling in. If you've got if you've got a buyer interested in a specific area, it's broken out by the area number in FMLS. Okay, so what makes Chartmaster, the reason our stats are so special is that they're exclusive to Keller Williams. Chartmaster started 15 years ago. Chuck is a former IBMer and a former agent, and Joanne, his wife, was an agent of 30 years, is still involved with me and my team, and she was also a broker. So they combined forces and came up with these charts and provided them to Keller Williams exclusively. So you're not going to find them with other brokerages. And the whole key to them is to make them visually easy to look at and give insight into the market using FMLS data. The biggest thing that stands out about them is that previous listing periods are taken into account. When you pull stats on FMLS or from other sources, you're only getting information from the most recent listing period for a home. So just in case anyone is confused about why that's important, you know that you get a new number in FMLS when it is put back on the market. If a listing has gone up, it has failed to sell, and it's either it expires or it's withdrawn, and it goes back on the market, it gets a new number. So the stats you see on FMLS don't take into account that first listing period. And that's really important for us to take into account when we're looking at history and trends, because it gives us the real picture of what happened with that house. It shows us if someone overpriced, failed to sell, and had to go back on the market. That's a whole different ballgame for days on market than if you just look at the last listing period where it may have succeeded at the right price. So the point of all these charts is to help us help our clients understand what the market is doing, what parts of the city are buyer or seller markets, understand as sellers how to price correctly so that they don't fail on the market, and for buyers to understand how best to negotiate. If they're in a hard seller's market, they don't need to be coming in low on price. So these are all tools that we can use, and they're excellent tools to use to help your clients. So those are the things that set us apart. There are also a lot of interactive worksheets, and I'll show you some examples of those. Did I miss anything, Chuck?
No, I think you got it.
Okay, all right. So it really does help us. It helps us set ourselves apart from our competitors, and it's really, really key for helping our clients know the pros and cons of the market and how to position themselves. So, yeah, again, so the four aspects of these charts is to show your clients and to know yourself the current trends, what the numbers are, to show what the effects are of the current trends on the market, again, whether we're in a seller or buyer market, and what that means to whichever client you're working with. And also pricing strategies and the consequences of what happens when you get it wrong. What happens when you are way off on your price? What is the impact? So those are what all of these things do and help us avoid. So get started. We've got, again, the quarterly report, quarterly stats, the area, and then the MMO. And those are our charts. I don't know why my thing is not advancing. Hold on. Okay, they all, not only do they show us quick visuals comparing quarter to quarter or by price range, but there are also notes on the bottom of each chart that Chuck has provided that are guides to you as you're going through to kind of know what it's like, a very quick script to use for each chart, which is helpful. And really the whole point of these charts is to help you tell a story to your client, a story of the market. There are narrative summaries. So it's a one-page summary. This I would highly recommend, if nothing else, if you do nothing else, I would take that summary page, print it, and even laminate it in postcard form so you can have it on you. But I would study that for each quarter so that when you're at a party or when we can go back or you're talking to someone and they say, what's going on with the market? You've got a quick answer and you look like an expert. So that's a great use of that summary page, in addition to just, you know, being up to date yourself on what's happening. There is a story of the market page as well, which is very helpful. It goes a little bit more in depth, and it even tells you, it breaks out into what's important about the market for buyers and what's important for sellers. I just want to do a quick sidebar too. And if I'm going too fast, let me tell you, let me know. Right now we have not got the first quarter reports because of obviously our current situation. They're really not relevant to what's happening now, which is why Chuck is doing the weekly updates for us. So you're not going to find the first quarter stats. I don't know, I guess second quarter, I don't know, you can answer that later, but we're just doing the weekly updates right now. But when we return to kind of a more regular routine, you know, this is good to know and have in mind.
Yeah, I talked to the all of the OPs early in the, before starting the first quarter reporting, and everybody kind of felt like it was best to, you know, the first quarter data was probably not going to be as useful right now because the market has changed so dramatically. At least we expected it to, and I think it is changing. That probably we ought to just suspend the first quarter and do some other things while we're tracking the market, which we're doing on a weekly basis, looking at the status changes, and continue the MMO, because that will kind of track a little bit more of the market as we go forward. So I'm doing both of those for the first quarter, but not doing a full quarterly report. And we'll start again in the second quarter, and I think it'll be very interesting to see some of the results that that have happened in the market when we get back to it.
Thank you. It will be interesting to see. The weekly ones are very helpful, and I'll pull those up in a minute as well, and just we can kind of just look at them. Okay, so you've got graphs, you've got summaries, you've got notes, you've got scripts. At one point we had scripts to walk through some of the toolkit things. Instead, you've got little mini scripts below pretty much every chart, I think, as we go, which is very helpful. And you can hide that if you're doing a presentation in front of a client with using your computer. There's a way to make those notes go away. So you probably don't want those up when you're actually saying them. So that's a good segue to the toolkit. So we just talked about the charts. You've got every kind of chart breakout you can imagine. It would be great to spend maybe an hour just going through those charts just to get a feel for how in-depth they are. And there may be some charts that you really want to use for specific situations, but just to know what you've got, I would recommend going through them. I would never recommend you showing a client all of them. There are tons and you would bore them to tears. Even the highest C would probably not be on board with that. One more thing I would recommend that I've done is to print out, it's a little pricey, but not too bad once a quarter, to actually print out a set of quarterly data and have it spiral bound in a presentation form. Just go to your printer and have it done. And then you can even use that the whole year and just bring it and show them physically. These are all the charts that we have, and this is how much information we've got to show you. And then it just kind of shows them physically how much information you bring to the table. So I think that's that can be a good, impressive tool to use as well. Okay, the toolkit, let me know if there are any questions, if there are any chat questions that I need to answer at this point. Okay, so the toolkit is where you have got many options. You've got seller tools, buyer tools, lead generation tools, self-training. You've got the grab and go, which is a short, quick listing presentation. There is a version with Michael Lewis, our Michael Lewis graphics, which is nice. They look great. And it is very helpful, and it's pretty quick and to the point. So you can easily go through the key pricing, marketing, and staging points of your listing presentation. And then you can take these tools and you can add your own things in. But it is a ready to go listing presentation for you. Also, there's a pre-list packet in there that's also ready to go. So that's helpful. Selling Choices is an awesome tool. This is for your for sale by owner leads, or really anyone thinking of going with a discount broker or selling on their own. This is a fantastic booklet, and it gives them kind of a seller survey asking if they're a good candidate for the different scenarios, selling by themselves, using an agent, and without just saying you should definitely use an agent, it helps them self-discover. So that's a great thing. You can drop that off at a FSBO, seller. There's a lot of ways you can use that. So I would definitely check that out. And again, there's a Michael Lewis presentation version. If you like those graphics, they look really good. Let's see. There are assembling and using instructions for everything. If you want to go through that, if you're not sure where to start, how to put it together, they've provided that for you. You can choose to set it up however you want, but those are just some suggestions and, a starting point. Especially for a new agent, this is amazing because you can just come in and have all these tools ready for you. Let's see. Yeah, and they're in both PowerPoint and PDF. So however you choose to use it, if you want PowerPoint for actually sitting down with someone and going through, that's a great tool. Okay, so the grab and go, we just went over all of that. You've got the pre-list, you've got selling choices. And then we have lead generation tools. These are great. These are one chart with a quick summary of the chart and then your information on the back and whatever you'd like to add in. But these are ready to go and they're done quarterly. So you can honestly just put your own personal information, contact information in and send them out. So it's a great touch. It's easy, really easy to use. The Metro Market Overview we talked about, which is the monthly report. This one I use, that is my monthly touch for my database. For Atlanta people, I will send out, I'll pick 1 or 2 charts and I will just email that with some, some descriptions, some key points in the email. And that is a once a month touch you can easily use. And it shows you as a market expert because you have all these wonderful stats. And it shows that you're keeping on top of the market. So those are great. And Chuck has expanded that report greatly. He has now included much more in-depth information about price reductions for all statuses, which is really, really interesting as we've been going more into a shifting market even before this crisis. It's been a great tool to use to show people, we've got 50% of sellers are having to take a price reduction before they're underway. Really check out those first two charts in the MMO. They're very, very helpful and there's been a lot added to them. Chartmaster for Dummies, I was explaining to you, it's a cute one to go through because it really lays out, they did it in a fun way. But it is the key charts that you want to be sure that you're familiar with out of all of them that we have. And then how-to documents, again, if you're not sure how to start, how to assemble all of your documents, that will kind of walk you through that. Okay. All right. Now, let me go to the key charts. These are the ones. Let me get to slideshow. Okay, so this first slide, so these are the ones that I would recommend over all of them that you familiarize yourself with. And we have these for condos and townhomes as well. This first one is called, this is our American Idol chart. And let me just, I'm not sure how to get rid of that.
Why is it called that? I hear that all the time. Tell us why.
Awesome.
Good question.
Yeah. Do you want to describe it, Dad, or do you?
Yeah, this was one that when we first started doing this, Sean Rawls, who was the OP at the time, was presenting the material a lot. And he said, you know, this reminds me of the American Idol show. The red bars, which are the active listings on the chart, they're monthly as you go along. The red bars are the people who think they can sing, and the short blue bars at the bottom are the ones who actually go to Hollywood. And he said, that's why I think we ought to call it the American Idol chart. And that's basically one that stuck. Sometimes it helps to have a name for these charts as you refer to them, you know, among yourselves or to even to your customers and clients. It kind of makes it a little more personal to put a name with it and give a little reason for the name like that. So it's kind of stuck, and everybody has kind of, I guess, embraced that name, and it's been called the American Idol chart ever since.
Now it makes perfect sense. Thank you so much.
It's a great visual. They can see the history of what's happened, and it goes all the way back to, you know, the downturn in 2009, and you can see, you know, that it's a great visual for buyers and sellers to see. So this is a good one to show. And so, yeah, so it's showing the active listings. The supply is the black line, and they're black blue bars below are the ones that have actually sold. So it shows the trends, and they really, I think what has been talked about numerous times is how consistent really the sales have been. Even when there are lots of actives, the number of sales hasn't really changed over the years. The green bar is showing what a balanced market is, which is typically 6 months of supply. So that green bar is to kind of show if we're above or below it, and that shows what kind of market we're in. So that's a great one for both buyers and sellers to kind of show what's happened over the course of recent years. One thing few agents talk about, I think, with sellers is the houses that don't sell, the failed listings. That's not always covered in presentations and consultations, but it's really important because you know, this is showing, and these are listings, not homes. So this data, and correct me, Chuck, if I'm not explaining this correctly, but they're the listings, not the individual homes. This for this time frame. So it's whatever listing was expired or withdrawn during that time frame. So they may have been on the market before, they may go back on the market again, but during this time, these are the homes that were taken off the market for whatever reason. So
yeah, that's Liz, if I can interject a second, that term finalized listings is one that I kind of invented, I guess, to represent the fact that these are statuses that will not change again. And forget about the house for a second. Again, as Liz said, think of it as the listing, and that listing will not change statuses again once it's hit one of these three statuses, and that's expired, withdrawn, or closed. So I take the percentage of the expireds and withdrawns as a percentage of the expired, withdrawns, and closed, and that's the percentage that you see on this chart. And it's meant to represent something that we can track to see, and of course it's seasonal. You see the ups and downs that swing, you know, through the summer the failed listings gets lower, and toward the fall they get higher. But it shows over time whether or not houses are more overpriced, or we're beginning to see some buyer resistance to price when you start seeing a higher percentage of failed listings. But even in a good market, which we were in pretty much in last year and the first part of this year, you'd still see a good 30 to 40% of listings that failed to sell during their listing period. So it's not a particularly good chart from the standpoint of sellers, in the sense that pricing makes a big difference. And your choices are either sell at a good price, sell at a lower price than you wanted to sell at, or don't sell at all. And it kind of enters the discussion with those various options to sellers, using this chart to show the risk of failing to sell.
Yes, thank you for clarifying that too. So yeah, so this is a good one to be sure to show. People just assume my house will sell no matter what. So this is an important one to show sellers when you meet with them. Okay, this is, if you don't choose any chart but this one, this is the one you need to be using and familiarize yourself with. And we call this the game board. And this is appropriate for both buyers and sellers. So it takes data from many, many other charts, individual charts, compiles that data. And for the quarter, it will tell how many homes sold. You can see at the top how many closings there were, and then how much of their original asking price they received, which is that 96.5. Again, this is fourth quarter. It's no longer, you know, relevant, but just as an example, it took 39 days, and these are median numbers because they're the most stable numbers to look at versus averages. So all of these are median. So it looks at all the sales, how much they got at their asking, how long it took them to sell. Then when you go, if you go to the left, how many of those that sold had to take a price reduction before getting to the closing table. So here's your number, 46.8% had to take a price reduction. That's almost half. And here's what they ended up with of their asking price. And this is how many days on the market they had to be up. Then we split it into people that had to list again. And we just talked about different listing periods. They had to take it off the market or it expired and they put it back on the market. So previously listed periods, this is again 17.2% right here had to do that in this quarter. And this is the penalty. They only got 90.2% of their original asking and they spent 167 days on the market. So this is the red box. This is where we do not want our sellers to be. This is the opportunity for buyers to possibly negotiate more heavily and have more negotiating room. If we show a buyer a home that's been listed before, obviously we can see that and they've taken price reductions, then we can let our buyers know, hey, they're probably tired of this and they've been at it for a while, so you've got some negotiating room there. So it helps them set their expectations on where they can come in with a price. And for sellers, we want to show them how long they're going to be sitting on the market, paying their mortgage and their bills and having to deal with showings. So that's the pain point box. On the other side, we have the people that sold and didn't have to take price reductions, what they ended up with, which is 99.3% of their original price. And it took them 13 days for a median. Every now and then, you know, sometimes whether it's an issue with an agent or something happens, they have to list again, but they didn't take a price reduction. And this is what happened to those people. And then the not previously listed, not price reduced is exactly where we want our sellers. And this is the green box. So I always explain it to sellers that I'm meeting with, you know, that we want you in the green box, not the red. And for buyers, if we see a green box home, that's going to be as close to asking, you know, in your offer as possible. You have to act fast. You've got to be ready to go. And again, this depends on the current market. If it's a heavy buyer's market, you may not have as much urgency. But fourth quarter, it was taking 11 days for sellers to go under contract. And it was nearly at asking. So this is another way you can use this chart to set expectations on both sides. And I have definitely gone into homes and said, this is a green box home. You need to, if you want it, you got to go for it and come in strong. So anything to add?
Yeah, Liz, one other thing I would mention is that the top box there, the gray box at the top, total closed, that's the stats that you typically see talked about in newspaper articles and everything that you read. And there's a million sources for that sort of information. But typically that's where they stop, is right there. And I think to educate a seller and furthermore a buyer as you go through this, but a seller in particular about the risks of overpricing, it tells you more of the story that says there is a real risk of overpricing to you as a seller. It's going to take you longer, and you're going to get a lot less of your asking price if you overprice your property to begin with. So the purpose of this chart is really to get into that conversation with the seller to say, don't forget about the top level statistics that you typically read about and hear, and let's look at what really happens typically in the market, and happened in this case in the fourth quarter of last year. And we're talking about 12,582 closings. So we've got a large sample. This is not a sample, this is all of them. And this is what happened to those closings as they progress through the various processes. So you really want to try to avoid that red box situation. And the best results for the seller is the green box, and pricing and condition are what gets you there. So I think it's the reason for this being called the game board is the object of the game is to get in the green box. So it's a green box house when it's in good condition and priced properly.
There is also an interactive version of this, and I use that every time I meet with the seller. I will use that, and you can put in the area that you're working, that the seller is in, and price range. You can do both. You can do one. You can either do it by area or by both. Not price range. Sorry, I don't think it's by price range. But anyway, you can put in an area and pull that area and see what this game board looks like in a specific area that you're working with, that your seller is, dealing with.
My feeling is that this chart should be shown to every seller, every listing call. This chart should be shown, even if you have agreement on pricing. I think having experienced some difficulty in the past as an agent, sometimes you get into things that if you had explained this stuff ahead of time, you'd eliminate a lot of problems for yourself later. So I think it doesn't hurt, even when you think there's agreement on the price, to go through this to say, here are the risks that we're trying to help you avoid. And, I think a seller understanding that puts them in better situation as they go through the process. And the other thing I think Liz mentioned for buyers as well, this is a good chart for buyers, because if you look at properties, you'll soon know, looking at the history and what have you, if that property's been previously listed or not. If it's new on the market, you don't have time on your side. If you're in a green box situation for a buyer, those properties sell pretty quickly, and they sell at pretty near asking price. So the likelihood of a lowball offer being accepted is not as good. And sleeping on the decision may get you in a situation where you miss out on a property you'd love to have had. So the green box is important to buyers as well. And the red box, if you got a bargain hunter, that may be the kind of property they should be looking for. One that's been listed multiple times and gone through price reductions. So it's a good chart really for both.
Yeah, spend time with this one, because this is extremely useful, and it's a great, easy to look at graphic too. So it is very clear what's happening when you show this to a seller or buyer. And again, there's an interactive version as well, which I use often. Oh, and so green box is right price, right agent, right, the previous, this one, previous, right price, wrong agent, right agent, wrong price, and wrong price, wrong agent. This is usually when everybody's off. The agent hasn't really educated them, and they have been wildly, off base on their price. Okay, so now this one is called the bubble chart, and this takes that failed listing information that we just looked at and the game board and puts it all together. And that is important for your sellers to see, because it brings in the faileds. The game board doesn't bring in faileds, it just brings in closings. This one incorporates how many people failed to sell it all in that time frame. And again, it's based on the listings, not homes. So for every 100 finalized listing, meaning, yeah, help me with that. Finalized is no longer
change statuses again. Yeah.
Yeah, it won't change. Right. So out of every 100, 66 sold, 34 did not. And where am I? They have got, oh, sorry, let me go back. 100, yeah, okay, so 66 sold, 34 failed due to most likely overpricing. Of the solds, 31 took a price reduction. So that's our 47% we saw before. Days on market, 89. So it tells you exactly what we just saw in the previous chart, the penalty for price reductions. And if you put all that together, the 34 plus 31, then 65 out of every 100 listings was overpriced. They either failed or they had to take a price reduction. So that is considerable. And then 35 didn't have to take any. And again, there's their green box success. So bringing in the faileds is very important to have that conversation with them about, because obviously we have got 34 out of 100 didn't sell during that time frame. So they need to be aware of that and avoid that. And this is a great graphic to show them and to talk about it, to open up the conversation. Did I miss anything on that?
That's also interactive as well. There's an interactive version.
Yes, you can, there's interactives for both of these. And this is another one that's important. We all know that sometimes sellers think, well, the longer I keep it on the market at a high price, I'll eventually find someone that will want to pay that price. So over here we have the theory that a lot of people have, and it is false and proven factually in this chart right here. And it shows the reality is that the longer you're on the market, the lower your prices, you know, the less chance your home has of selling, and you're going to end up in that red box. And this is a good chart to show them. And it's based on facts, not just you telling them. So it's something that they can see. You've got a couple of weeks to succeed, and then you're going to really hurt yourself as far as price and days on market. This is in the listing presentation as well. I like this one. I would, if you use this one, be sure you run it before you bring it to a client. But this is if you are debating with a seller about where to price their home, and you've gone through these other charts and you've looked at comps and you've done all of that, and you're still not quite in agreement. This is a great one. It pulls in all of these stats from the previous charts and applies it to their price point. And so suggested market price would be, you know, if you think their home should be listed at 400, they're saying 425, you plug these numbers in, you just plug in these prices, and it will go back and grab the statistics from the quarter, and it will plug it in, and it will show them what is like, oops, sorry, excuse me. It'll show what's likely to happen based on the information that we have. So it shows them eventually down here, and you can put in kind of, if you don't have the real numbers of their utilities and all of these, you can kind of guesstimate. It'd be great if you could get that information from them, but we can't always do that. So you can kind of.
So can I stop for a second?
Sure.
This one and the other interactive, that's the area comparisons. Is there a trick to use these? Because I've never been able to get them to work actively.
Yeah, let me answer that, Liz. There's the trick is, first of all, you have to be in PowerPoint, which some people have tried to do it in PDF. I'm sure you didn't do that, but if that's one problem I've heard. The other is there are some Apple products that the Microsoft software doesn't implement this particular capability. So we've done an Excel spreadsheet version that has all of the interactive charts in it. So if you can't get the PowerPoint charts to work, and the process is, you probably tried this, but the process is you double click on in the graph, and it should change into a Excel spreadsheet in PowerPoint. And that's when you can enter the variables, and then click again, and it turns back into a PowerPoint chart with the new variables entered. If that doesn't work, I suggest try this Excel spreadsheet, because that should get you past that problem.
And where do we find that Excel spreadsheet, Chuck?
It's part of the package that we send out. It's both in the MMO package and also in the quarterly package that we send out. So it should be available on your intranet.
Thank you.
Do you remember the
Yes,
name?
I do have Apple products, so I am one.
Do you remember the name of, I can't remember what it's called, but it's
well, it's the only Excel sheets in there. So there's one for condos and there's one for detached, and and some offices, I guess, can't download a file with a macro embedded in it. So there's a macro version and a non-macro version. The only difference, the macro allows you to do some moving around on the screen that the non-macro restricts, but otherwise everything operates the same in both of them. So if you only have the non-macro version, you're not really missing a whole lot. So, but it should say detached Excel. I don't know the exact name of it either off the top of my head, but it's the only two Excel sheets that would be in the package.
okay. Yeah, those are hopefully helpful. So this is just another tool you can use if you're really struggling to get, you know, a seller to kind of, to really get them to understand what the penalty may be. This is useful. But again, run it first and make sure that it works to your favor, because sometimes it does, sometimes it won't show a difference. Be careful with that. This is the summary sheet we talked about. This is what I was saying, that you can print out just the sheet, laminate it, and or just study it and have it at the ready. People are asking you what the market's like. You are ready to go with some quick numbers, and you look like an expert because you will be. So this breaks it down and is very top level of the charts. And there's a chart for each one of these numbers. This is an example of the area chart. So there are a lot of these. Is my, can you see the whole chart? Or am I blocking it? I can't tell. Let me move that over there. Okay, so this is a great visual also. This one is for percent change in median sales price, and it shows the different, it's by the FMLS area number. And so it shows areas where the sales price has gone up or where it's gone down. We have got colored maps like this for a lot of different categories. There's number of sales, there's distressed, there's a lot of maps for this. And this would be great to print out and just show your buyer. You know, if they're thinking about different areas of East Cobb, you can show them 81, 82, 83, and that, you know, 83 has gone up versus 81 and 82. So it's a good quick snapshot, and it can be helpful really for both sides, for both seller and buyer. And then this is a breakdown of that map. This is the data behind it. So you can also show them this if they want to see their specific area in this form. This is the same information, but it's in a chart instead. And then this is an example of an interactive, and this is, I love this one for buyers that are looking in different areas, but also, you know, it can be used for sellers as well. But you can plug in, you know, all the different areas that they're looking in, and it will tell them what the median sales price was, all these different stats, and it may help them make a decision and also set their expectations from a buyer's side of, you know, what kind of offer they need to give and what's happening in that market. How long it's taking homes to sell. Like this one is 147 median days on market versus 55, 37 and a half. That's a big difference. So, you know, you've got more time in one versus the other to make offers and to negotiate. So I like that comparison chart a lot. I use that a lot. Okay. So that is basically it. One more thing I'd like to show you is where to find them in case anyone's still having trouble finding them on our intranet. So I will show you. You're going to go to, if I can do it. I'm not sure that I can show my main screen. So you're going to go to the KW intranet, our intranet site for our office.
I'll do it.
Thank you. I didn't practice that part.
So you're at your MyKW. You go to your intranet. Does everybody can see that?
I see a bar, a white bar.
Hold on.
It's like your browser window. And
hold on. All right, let me try again. Okay. Hold, please. All right.
Got it.
Okay, so this is your MyKW, the Quan intranet that you get to from your MyKW, and it's up here in this links button. There's the MMO and quarterly stats. And here's your quarterly report and your toolkit, oops, and your month over month. And here are the different tools and all of the weekly status changes that Chuck has provided for us during this COVID. So that's where you find them.
Awesome, thank you.
Wow.
Speaking of those weekly, that is the one last thing that I want to show you just really quickly. So we're getting these through email, but they're also on our intranet, as you saw. So I believe I have that one open. So these are the weekly snapshots. And again, this is in place of right now, the quarterly, until things kind of, we become hopefully a little more stable. So these are done weekly by Chuck, and they are going to show, and if there's any key points you want to go over, Chuck, that, feel free. Basically, new closed, and it's just showing throughout the weeks since the beginning of March what has been happening. And you've got notes over on the left kind of explaining and comparing to the same time last year. And some are week to week, I believe. Well, it's all week to week, but you're compared to a normal year, 2019. So
yeah, can I just mention one thing on the close, the previous chart, that I do go back, there's always a lag when these various statuses click in. That they may be, closings, for example, in the last week, the most recent week there, look very low. Those will come in higher as we go along. There'll be more and more closings get posted in FMLS, and that red bar will get longer as those closings come in. So I just wanted to mention that that's the only one of these charts that I do update each week. As I get more closings in, I'll show those for the previous weeks. The rest of them are all snapshots. They're as of the day I did actually the minute that I did the download. So those statuses will change, of course, also, but we're looking at them at a particular point in time each week. So we can see some various changes that take place, even though they're snapshot views and they'll change, they change all the time. But I think it's worth knowing what's the current, number of these particular listings are. But I wanted to mention that the closings is the only one that does get changed for previous weeks as we go along. So just bear that in mind.
okay, so just, so check these out, and just kind of, we're all being asked often, what's happening with real estate? Is it, how is it being impacted? So these are great snapshots. They are snapshots, but they are great things to share, or at least help you understand what's going on, to talk to people about it. So I would recommend looking through these and looking at them each week so you can see the differences and the changes. So, and these are available to all of us.
Chuck, as you look at these, what indicators do you see that are happening since we've been
Well, I may be overly optimistic, but it looks to me like in some of these that there might have been a panic reaction around the middle of March, and we got a lot of, more dramatic changes. And there's some of them are starting to come back closer to what we're used to seeing. And I may be overly optimistic. The next time we see them, they may be spiking again. I have no idea, but that's kind of what I got out of looking at this particular time, is that things didn't look quite as bad this time as they did, 2 to 3 weeks ago.
Great, thank you. Appreciate that.
So if there are any questions for me, I'm happy to answer, or for Chuck. That is the overview. Again, you can go as deep into these as you want. We have got incredible amounts of information at the ready for us. It's just really, it can be overwhelming to agents to kind of know where to start. So I would start with those charts that we just talked about, and then know that there are charts for each piece, every piece of that information. Like in the game board, you've got charts for each piece of that. So just take some time to look through them. They're very valuable, and they are an amazing asset that we have. So,
and where to find them again? Get your pen ready. Go to mykw.kw.com. When you're there, click on the My Office intranet. Once you're on our intranet, you're going to go to the links button, which is like the paperclip at the top. And then it's the quarterly stats, MMOs, it's all in there in the toolboxes. So that's where you find it.
Awesome. And I'm available if anyone has questions for me afterwards or needs help with anything. I'm happy to help. And if I can't, then I will ask Chuck.
Absolutely. And we did record this, so if you'd like to go back to understand this again, because Liz did such a great job, it will be posted on our YouTube channel, our Quan Training YouTube channel, and Kevin sent out the link on Facebook, so you guys have the link there, okay?
Great.
Thank you so much, you guys, for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thanks. Have a good day.
Liz, can I ask you one quick question?
Sure.
Sorry. I think in the overview you were saying that there were some charts that we can do specific to different areas.
Yes.
Are those like the charts, like the way that Jillian just said to go and find those reports? Those are all just PDF, like those are already created, correct? How would we get to the ones that we can create our own specific area?
Well, they're FMLS areas, so there wouldn't be, like, it's based on the FMLS area number, so that can't be created. So there's 41 areas in all of the charts and the area reports. So you would find the FMLS area that is that what you're asking?
Well, I guess I'm saying, go ahead, Jillian.
I think what you're asking is, so there's an area comparison report,
Right.
and that's what you would use, and then you would plug in the different areas that you want to compare, and it will pull that for you.
Yes.
And that's through the KW intranet, through all in there?
It's in the same spot.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Sure. Not a problem. Okay. If there are no other questions,
Anything else? Awesome, guys. Make it a great day.
thank you.
Take care.